Lens is wide angle, so I look chubbier. But
This, I heard black is slimming, isn't it?
these aren't black.
Okay. Try to keep the noise up, keep the enthusiasm up. Can you kick the door with your foot? It doesn't matter.
You don't like seeing people looking at you?
No, I was just wondering if it affects anything. Keep it closed in. Nice.
You want that one close too?
I never thought about it. I don't know. I just recalled from previous times that one was like that.
Okay.
Probably makes zero difference though when you're talking at it.
Right.
All right.
Oh, a little bit of a tub. A little bit of a tub. I'm working on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say coming down. Yeah, over the winter.
Working on it. So the game plan, 40 pounds.
They really? Okay.
Yep.
Offset the block weight.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we getting into it?
There's no block yet though.
We are back.
Not gonna.
Should we explain why we're missing one person here?
Trev's on date night.
Okay, it's date night.
So I took his chair. It's kind of a nice chair actually.
We'll have our own little date night here then.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we are down one, but he'll be back. Trevor will be back. So.
Trevor will be back to keep us in line.
And keep us funny.
Keep some enthusiasm in the show.
This will be more serious talks.
Yeah, a little bit more monotone today.
I'll probably fall asleep.
Possibly a bit more technical. Brian did have a meat stick, so he might go into rest and digest mode here in a moment. But yeah, it's good to be back in here. Section off a little bit of time to talk about cars, racing.
Yeah, because it's been a couple weeks.
We
missed Christmas
and the holidays.
I got a cold, and then I think Trev had a cold, and we're back.
It's good to be in here as opposed to remote. We talked about like zooming in, doing a Zoom call, but
yeah. Actually, speaking of Zoom calls, we're gonna do a Zoom call for the next one.
For the next one, yeah.
Howard's Cams.
Coming in.
We're gonna get Luke B from Howard Cams.
Yeah. So you guys have to come back for that. That should be a cool one.
Yeah. I talked him into it, so see how that goes.
Awesome.
But he actually has watched some of our videos, and he clipped my clip of the broom sweeping or whatever, and he turned it into a GIF.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For his own purposes.
For his own, and then he shared it on Facebook.
That's funny. So he watched the show before you had put him onto it, or what?
No. We were talking about because he's gonna start a YouTube channel, and we were just talking like how things go, and then I mentioned I have my own going on, so.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we'll get into it more when he's on the show and we're able to pick his brain, but I'll be curious to hear about the plans for the YouTube channel and stuff.
But we could segue into the reason why I'm talking to Luke at Howard's Cams.
Right, yeah, why?
Because it's been like 3 weeks and we haven't talked about any of this.
It's true.
So, I was looking for a camshaft, and because I got all these weird specs that I need.
So the combination of all those things. I mean, you're not getting an off-the-shelf cam.
No, it's always been custom grinds. But the big thing now is with lead times and finding parts is a lot of people didn't have cam cores on the shelf.
It's just raw material for actually grinding them.
Yeah. So I didn't know this, but I guess when they buy a cam core, the lobe is actually already roughed in.
Okay.
I always thought maybe it'd just be like the lobe centers were roughed in, and they were just around, put your lobe however you want. But yeah, the lobe's kind of roughed in already, so you could only do so much separation.
Right, you can only move the center lines probably so far.
Yeah. So a lot of companies that I would talk to would get back to me and they'd be like, "Hey, well, we have a 4.7 cam, but we can't put it at the same lift that you have now." So then I'd be buying a smaller camshaft than I had, kind of thing.
So you end up actually limited by the cores that are available.
Yeah,
not only just for availability to get a cam, but to actually get the spec ground into it that you wanted.
Right. So I guess the roughed in lobe,
the
height was only so high on those. So yeah, I called everywhere, and then I messaged Greg Schmidt and I said, do you have a cam guy? Because he's always at PRI and he's talking to everybody. And
Shout out Bad Influence Garage.
Bad Influence Garage on YouTube. Go check out Greg's stuff.
So he's got a cam guy. Is this the cam? Okay, so.
I don't know if it's Greg's cam guy or, well, he said it was his cam guy. So.
Okay. Well, he's dealt with him in the past.
They've talked. So he said he was just talking to him at PRI and talked to him. So I messaged Luke, and then they had a couple options, and the main option was big block Chevy, but he was going to cut it out of a 50 millimeter Camcore because the big block Chevy is just slightly smaller, and they'd grind it out of that. So that was huge because then I actually found one, and then I think they were 8 weeks out for most of their cam grinds, which a lot of people were telling me 12 to 14 weeks, so they were a little bit faster too. Segue into fixing that aluminum block.
Right, yeah. Still got the block on the go.
So without getting too deep into that, it's been welded. I had the crank in it. I had a cylinder head on it. I had a torque plate on it. And when I welded the side of the block, most of it didn't move. I did weld the side of that one main that was broken. And that actually pulled the main like about 2.5 thou. And I was like, ah. So now we're into a line hone or whatever. But then half of that cylinder was missing because it got knocked out. At
the bottom, kind of.
On the inside, yeah. And then in behind the sleeve. But then we noticed there's a crack all the way up the sleeve. Just into the bottom of the main journal where it's clearanced for where the sleeve bottoms out into the main. So I welded all that up. But to weld all that, I had to pull the crankshaft out because you can't get your arm in there. So with the crank out and all the heat just in the center of the block, it actually pulled the 3 center mains now.
It pulled all, okay, so you got a lot of movement going on there.
Yeah. So we welded the mains up so that we could line bore it and keep the crank to the cam center line. Because otherwise your timing set and everything's all wrong. And I got a belt drive, so then so that's a little bit. But then once I pulled that torque plate off, because it was an aluminum torque plate, I guess it wasn't holding as good as the aluminum cylinder head. So the deck is actually warped on one side.
Holy smokes.
3 thou too. It pulled it up towards the deck. Like the deck is now humped.
Oh.
The center humped. It didn't dip in. So.
Okay, so you got a convex deck on one side. You got all the mains or...
The 3 center mains are all welded up now.
Okay, the 3 center ones, yeah.
The main all the way down the cylinder is welded.
Okay.
There's a 2x3 chunk of bore that's been welded.
Okay.
And then the main's been welded back to the pan rail, and then the outside of the block is all welded back up.
So it's coming together.
It's coming together.
You still need the tagline like machine shops hate him.
Machine shops hate him. But so then that comes back to the camshaft. So luckily we have 8 weeks for a cam to get ground. Because once you realize how much everything else has moved, that cam tunnel is dead center in between those 2 pieces.
Yep.
I didn't have a straight camshaft anymore because when the motor blew, the rod hit the cam. It actually bent the cam 80 thou. So then I spent a whole afternoon in the garage heating the camshaft, putting it in the press, trying to press it back straight. And I got it to within like 25 thou, but it's just springing there now.
Okay.
I can't get it any farther. Like I've had that cam like with a good bend where you're like, this thing's gonna break, and then it just keeps springing back to that 25 area. Yeah. That's
surprising. But how'd you get it out in the first place?
Yeah, getting it out was tough.
Okay.
It's got like a little bit of flex to it though, so like it came out a couple, and then it just destroyed the bearing on the way out. But yeah, you could kind of like bend it as you're prying to get the next journal through.
And do you run a roller cam bearing in this?
No, that was Babbitt.
Okay.
What I did, I had an old 50 millimeter camshaft that I got off eBay way back for who knows why. But I cut that down in the lathe to big block Chevy journal, and then tried to slide it in, and it goes in, but you can't turn it. It's
wow,
like
okay.
tight. So that cam tunnel's
something's
bent.
also moved, yeah.
Yeah, so which makes sense because if the mains moved and the deck height moved,
Yeah.
then everything moved. So I called Luke back, and I was like, "Don't cut that down to big block Chevy. Leave it as a 50 millimeter, and I'll put roller bearings in it." Because I tried to find Babbitt bearings with a bigger OD, but you could get like 1 or 2 thou. It seems like maybe 3 thou. But if I'm moved 3, I think it's gonna be like we're gonna have to cut more.
Yeah,
kind of
over 5 probably.
Yeah, so the roller cam bearing has like a way bigger OD, so
So you can go roller now then? So you're going to have to open up the cam tunnel.
Yeah.
Square it back up. I guess you'll square up the mains, square up the cam.
Yeah, so I was talking to Carl at R&R Machine Shop, the place that I got this mess dropped off to them. And so Carl's going to put it on the line bore. He's going to do the mains, and then when it's all bolted down, he'll do the cam tunnel.
Okay.
So it'll work out.
Yeah. So you'll have this block that's being like pulled in like 5 different directions with all the weld repairs on it. As long as it doesn't fracture right down the middle, it's probably going to work, right? Like
the passenger side deck is perfectly straight still.
Still.
Yeah. But that's the one that had the cylinder head bolted to it. So I think the head was helping pull heat out of it and keep it straight. So
it's flat. They're probably not 90 degrees apart anymore.
That doesn't matter. The pin moves on the piston.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's where we are with that. That block's rough for sure.
But you're committed. It's going through.
Oh yeah.
Something's gonna happen with it.
It's
cool.
going in.
Awesome. Okay, so back to Howard's cams.
Oh yeah, so yeah, Howard's cams. Talking to Luke. Luke actually said that he remembered me from. It must have been back in Cots because they're in Wisconsin.
Okay, they were out
like
at
Wisconsin,
race,
but like close to Chicago, like down. I think he remembers the car from back then. So I don't know if he went to Cots or if just in passing of people, but he remembers the car being nitrous.
Right, yeah, so, nitrous car at the time. Yeah, big tire nitrous.
So I was bugging him, and he's a super nice guy, so like we're kind of friends now. And it slowly morphed into Howard's Cams is now sponsoring Little Pickle. Just like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It'd be a good relationship going forward. Congrats, first of all.
Yeah. So we're going to have him on next time.
Sweet.
And
talk camshafts.
Talk camshafts, and maybe we'll
talk racing.
Maybe we'll screen grab him doing something, and I'll edit it to make him look funny.
Well, that's awesome. That's, you know, right? Just make a good relationship with the guys, and
well, it's huge because I didn't actually realize Howard Cams and Competition Products are merged.
Okay.
So
they're doing more than just camshafts. Safe to say then.
They have like belt drives and stuff they just released too. But yeah, anything in the Competition Products catalog, I'll let him tell about all that, but they can get all that. So
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I just gave him a shopping cart list of stuff that I broke, and
just
pretty much everything. They have everything. Like they got bearings and everything that I need. So it's awesome.
And is it true they're also doing rotating assembly? Or crankshafts?
Yeah, we can talk about that too.
Because I'm curious, because I'm, also having a new
new
bullet putting together maybe here.
We haven't talked about any of this.
Yeah.
Like, so for Christmas, I guess Stacy decided that.
Your wife.
My wife Stacy decided that she doesn't want the normal forged 340 Eagle crankshafts in my engines anymore, even though it totally wasn't its fault. It was an aluminum rod that broke. I had no problem with that crank. Yeah. I would have still ran it.
Yeah, still good. Yeah, I might run it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's got a big dent in it from the rod, isn't it? But I don't know. Like, I don't know why I never looked at Howard's Cam stuff, because they have a small block Chevy billet crankshaft for like medium pricing, like the same as like an expensive 4340 crank.
Okay, that's awesome. So they're doing billet crankshaft.
Yeah, so they have a billet crankshaft.
That's available. It's in stock.
Available in stock. I think you
Wow.
have 3 or 4 on the shelf. He said. So it's got a big block Chevy snout now, because I was gear drive off my small block Chevy snout. I don't know. I guess that's weird to do too, but never had any issues.
Right.
But yeah, Summit. Like you go on Summit right now. I wouldn't go on Summit though. I'd call Howard Cams.
Yeah.
Call Howard's Cams right now, and I think the retail on it's like $1,700 US.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, for billet crankshaft territory, that's
Yeah.
That's a good deal. Cool. All right. So what you're saying is you got a crankshaft coming for Christmas.
Yeah, crankshaft for Christmas. So it went to. He's drop shipping everything to M&M Racing because they have my cylinder heads right now.
Got it.
And Scott's gonna balance it at M&M. So they got my cylinder heads right now, putting valves in them.
Any welding needed on the heads? I don't recall if it.
There's a piece. Yeah, there's a piece when the exhaust valve got smacked. It busted, like the little teardrop shape off of where the guide comes through.
Okay.
It broke that off. It broke that piece off. But I talked to Scott about it, and he said you wouldn't want to like epoxy it because it could fall off because it's in the exhaust. And then we talked about welding it up, but he said probably won't affect too much flow wise.
Just running without that piece there?
Yeah, because the same thing, once you get in there welding and everything, then you might warp something, or so plus, they're going to re-guide it and then...
Okay. Yeah. And just leave it as is? Yeah. This is something...
It's a pretty small chunk, like it's less than your fingernail that busted off, but...
I'm curious about it because those LT4 heads we're talking about, damaged set of castings. They're dinged up a little bit in a similar way, but that's also something that happened is that kind of, aluminum bit that kind of supports the valve guide got dinged off. So I was considering, I mean, I assume to weld it, you got to, machine the guide out of it, right? Weld it back up and then
you'd have to press the guide out and then weld it and then ream it and then push a new guide in, which is all doable.
It's doable, but if, like he's saying, if it's too much trouble or more trouble than it's worth in the performance gain.
Yeah, he didn't seem too worried about it.
It doesn't seem like that at that point in the guide that aluminum is doing anything structural to support it, like for stability.
Yeah, I don't think it's too much. Like it's such a small piece. I think mostly, like the other side of it is supporting it, and then. Got it. Maybe if you were like all out naturally aspirated or like something where you're like squeezing everything counts.
Or like a big budget, fix the cylinder
head.
If
you wanted to fix it because you had extra money or whatever. Then I think maybe you'd probably repair that. But for what I'm doing, I don't think he finds anything wrong with it. So.
Cool, okay. So those heads are going to go back together then?
Yep.
And freshen up valves, springs.
Yep. Yeah, there wasn't anything too... There was 3 intake valves that were damaged and then 4 exhaust. But...
And were you happy with like the head gasket system you had on there and sealing and everything?
Yeah.
Any changes there?
It still has like a little wisp in between the 2 center cylinders from something passing through. But like back in the nitrous days and stuff like that, it was just common. Right. Both sides of the gasket would be black. It wouldn't burn up or anything. It would just be kind of just not able to squish there.
And you had copper at the time too when it was the nitrous combo?
I had MLS and then I went to copper.
Okay.
So.
And with the copper, so now with the copper, because you still have copper, you have O-ring and receiver groove, or what's
the O-ring in the cylinder head, receiver groove in the block, and then copper.
Got it. Thick slab of copper in there. Nice. Yeah, that's a good system, right?
So that pretty much covers all my stuff. Let's talk about your stuff.
My stuff.
Yeah. What do you?
I've got less exciting Christmas presents. No crankshafts or anything this year. So I'm certainly behind the 8 ball on that stuff. The car's mostly been sitting. It's kind of like we get to this point in winter, in the Canadian winter, where the season seems so far away. I'm like, shifted priorities into like getting the garage together, you know.
Right.
Like I have my car at a different shop right now, and in my home garage I'm getting configured for, you know, being able to work in there in the winter effectively, but so the car hasn't made much progress. Yeah, not too much to report.
This is the worst time of the winter.
It's the
But
worst
now
time.
I'm starting to get, like, once we get into like February, then I'm like, okay, I'm running out of time.
Our first local testing tune, so we just got the dates for our local stuff. That's
Yep.
going to be June, I think, second week of June.
Yeah.
So we're going to have like a test weekend, second week of June at the airstrip.
And then the week
Terrace
after
Bay
that,
Drags.
I want to find out if they're doing a small tire thing at that, or if I'm just throwing big tires on and racing quarter mile.
For the Terrace Bay Drag testing tune?
Yeah, because I don't think it'll be our first one, but it could be our first
Might be.
one.
Wouldn't be a bad season opener, right? It's a couple hours drive, get everything shaken out. Yeah, so that's also the date that I kind of have in my mind where things will have to come together.
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm expecting a very busy March and April for myself personally and getting stuff together, just based on, you know.
So realistically,
Mm-hmm.
are you trying to switch the combo up, or are you?
It's still on the table. It's still on the table.
Would you consider still running the car if you can't switch it up in time?
Yeah, I'd probably run the car. There's some changes still have to be made probably to take a step forward. Like, I'm definitely behind the 8 ball with data acquisition, not having data on stuff, and being able to make, you know, intelligent tune-up changes,
Right.
especially on the fly. One good thing about like making videos and stuff for YouTube is I end up watching the runs like over and over again. Not only like from outside the car, but then you see the views inside the car. You're hearing what the engine's doing. You're seeing the chassis underneath. So I end up learning. Like I get the data out of it eventually.
Yep.
But it's like after you're home from the track. It's the next week. You're watching all the stuff. Or like, but
I'm the exact same way. And then I think that I figured something out, and then I'm like, well, now we're going into a race.
mm-hmm.
I know it works the other way. So
Mm-hmm.
then I end up leaving it. Like, I picked a 4-link position at the beginning of last year, and I didn't change it. But I'm
Right.
pretty sure I could drop the bar.
But it
or
works, so
raise
that's the
bar.
thing, right?
Like,
my stuff didn't work the last time out. So that's why like
your stuff
afterwards
still works too, though.
it works to a certain extent, but there's quite a lot more there that I
You
was
got a
missing.
lot of changes that you can make for sure
Yeah.
with the clutch car.
Yeah. And I just left a lot on the table looking back at it. Like the last outing we had was that was I-29 Dragway, Iowa.
Yep.
Yeah. The Shop Inc. like Beaterbomb no prep race. And the week before that, I shot out to Winnipeg just for a test session, just to kind of get the car shaken
Right.
out. Because the time previously, there were some issues, like the car worked, but I had some stuff that we had to figure out. And I tested there, worked awesome. And it was also super cold, so like similar conditions, at least I thought, like neither track was prepped. It was the same air temp. It felt very comparable, but coming to Iowa, like I was just like annihilating the tire way harder than I expected to. I took clutch out of it. I took power out on the progressive controller. And it was just standing on the tire super, super hard. So at the time, I was approaching it with like chassis changes, like on the suspension, just because I figured that I had the power and the clutch to a point where it should work if the other stuff was in order. Just based on, like I said last weekend, like I made half a dozen passes, but after watching all this stuff, like I still had, I still think I had like too much counterweight on the clutch for what I was trying to do at that point. And in hindsight, like I feel like I could go now, just with a fresh clutch tune-up and make a like a PB pass,
right?
Because the car is making the power. Like I had like personal best a mile an hour. Like every pass we got a little bit faster. We were making some changes in the nitrous, like with the timing, and it was working. And the car was making like sick power, but the ET just didn't come around just because of the front half of the track. So I basically matched like personal bests in ET in the 8th and personal best in mile an hour with like a half tenth off the 60 foot, which is like significant,
So here's a question for you. Now that you've been to like I-29 and Humboldt and No Prep Kings, this is a banger of a question.
Okay.
Do you feel that the tracks up in Canada, because they're like never used, even though they get prepped, are they worse than a US track that's a no prep, but has had runs on it previously?
It's a super loaded question. There's like, every track is somewhat different. The short answer, no, I don't think so. I don't think there's like a disparity in the track because like when I was running in Winnipeg, that Interlake Dragway,
yep,
because it's Gimli, Manitoba area, you know, they weren't spraying this track. It was like, I think 10 degrees Celsius this day we were running. So it was pretty cold. Windy, like this was like, you know, around October.
Yeah, it looked cold actually in your video.
And they weren't spraying the track, nothing. We just showed up. It was like dead cold. Like air temp was 10 degrees. There's no sun, nothing. Like there's no way track temp was above that. And I mean, I went like mid 1.3s to 60 foot. And the car worked really. I think I went like 9.22 at the parachute out that weekend.
Okay.
Mid 1.3s to the 60 foot, which was awesome. That's the best the car worked. So I felt really good going into that next weekend. Like I can even roll into the same tune-up. This was like unprepped track, dead cold, and I was, you know, we were able to make it work. But so I was really surprised just to like drive over the tire like almost every pass in Iowa. So I don't know if it's like it's kind of hard to say too because the way my car's set up, like your car leaving off a trans brake with the converter you got and stuff, it's going to behave one way with a surface, right? Depending on how much bite versus how much is going to go away once you get on top of the tire. But I found mine was like at this recent Iowa race at I-29, I would lose the tire and it didn't really recover. It would kind of just spin up to the rev limiter. And for anyone that's seen my video from that one, you'll see the car popping and banging like almost every pass in the 60 foot. And that was just because it would leave, probably roll out 10 foot, and then the counterweight I think was just coming in with the RPM, and it was just driving over the tire and just going right up to the limiter. So I would have seen it right away at the time. I had a data log, right, to see how it ran away. But where at Winnipeg it didn't do that.
So for you, Iowa was the worst surface. I didn't even get a sip
lesser
of this,
surface, yeah. I wouldn't mind a sip either.
This break is sponsored by Barks Root Beer. Go on down to Barks Root Beer. Get yourself a nice cold one. Thanks, Barks. Just
That's
random
good.
product
Yeah,
placement.
right. Yeah, we're back. Yeah, we can just put that one in for sponsor placement. You're asking about the surface?
Yeah, so for you, with the clutch car, did you find Iowa, did you find
I-29,
that I-29 was worse surface than Manitoba?
Like the car,
the weekend before?
The car performed worse, but I don't think it means it was a worse surface. I think I just missed on the tune-up.
Yeah.
I think the car could have been at least as quick, if not quicker, because the track felt really good. So what I noticed, if you just objectively went and looked at that Winnipeg track, it doesn't look as nice and pristine. I mean, there's a pretty harsh winter we get there. You know, it doesn't get as much use, like you said. So. And it was also like an old airstrip. Like they did a nice job of the track. It works well, and guys have been quick there. But
yeah, I still haven't been there.
It's not as consistent and smooth. Like we go over to this I-29 one, and it's it's nice, smooth, really uniform track across the groove. You know, it's not patchy at all. Like it's it's a solid track for sure. But I think I just missed on how I was treating it. I came in literally with the same tune-up off the trailer, and it went down. But like I said, it drove over the tire pretty much every time a little bit, and. Now in hindsight, and I was, like I said, playing with power management, playing with chassis quite a lot. In hindsight, I would have just took a bunch of pressure off the clutch, basically softened that up and just kept the same power in it, and just used that because it was really the first, probably 30 feet of the track that it needed to be a bit softer, not to get on top of the tire so early. So
you'd lose the tire shift and then it would recover?
Pretty much,
okay.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was interesting that I wouldn't lose the tire initially, so it would leave. So basically that told me that my base pressure was close because I'd be leaving, let's say, like 4,500, and there's not I'm not going to get the counterweight is kind of like exponential. So the higher the RPM, it's going to really ramp up the pressure. So leaving at 4,500, there's not a lot of counterweight assist in the clutch. It's mainly just the springs. So I'd left, and the car would stick, and it worked well. It didn't pull the engine down. It kind of held it, which is perfect. But then as it started to climb, the counterweight came in super heavy, and it just drove over the tire. So. Also, that's power, right? So what can you do? You can take counterweight off the clutch, or you can take, power out of it with the timing or nitrous. But in hindsight, I think that, I would have done one of those two things, as opposed to trying to just do three things randomly, right? Chassis stuff, which I think helped. Like we noticed by the end of the weekend, it did help, but there's just too many moving parts and too many missing pieces without knowing.
There's a thing about race day for sure is like you're under pressure to perform, and then you come back to the pit after a pass or whatever, and lots of the times you don't actually know how fast it's going to be until you're called back up.
Right. Yeah.
So you're trying to like hammer off as much stuff as you can.
Yeah. Well, get the car turned around and get ready to go.
And lots of times, depending where you are, you don't have enough time. So you get the car turned around and then you start like looking at data or figuring out next change, and then all of a sudden you're getting pulled up. Or in other cases, like you'll come back to the pit, you rush through all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you're waiting to go up. So then you have time to look at stuff.
Yeah.
But there's still like that little bit of, like I get it, a little bit of like panic in the back of your head that they are going to call you up, so you don't know if you actually have enough time to do this or do that. So I like most of the time when I'm racing, I'm just like first tune-up goes down, and then I'm just creeping up a little bit of like a little extra RPM or whatever. Like I'm doing like the smallest change. I'm like my first to last pass is like minute changes for sure.
A good point, because that was kind of my thought coming into it with a tune-up I knew worked, right? Like it went down.
Yeah.
So I thought it would just need, those subtle changes, right? And like these subtle changes in the progressive curve for the nitrous, in the first like half second, really, that was the only thing. Subtle changes on the shock settings, but so each pass I'd make the subtle change, expecting it, to catch the tire again, it would be fine.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen to. The other thing we did that I guess I didn't mention is we just upped the jet size too in the nitrous. Ended up spraying like 400 shot. So we did do that, but I thought to counteract it, I'm like, okay, we're going to spray 400, add like 50 horsepower nitrous, and then, but I took a turn out of the clutch at the same time. So I thought, okay, those would kind of balance out to some degree, soften the clutch, added some power, still had a progressive ramp. Like I said, too many moving parts, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to make one change at a time, ideally, but when you're in an elimination, you got.
Oh yeah.
This was race day, so I don't think there's no test passes. It was basically first round. And I know I'm outgunned in this type of thing, so I knew I had to just bring everything. Like if I thought the car could hold a 400 shot of nitrous, that was my time to do it. So that's why we did it.
Right.
And it did. It worked. It went faster, and it would have gone quicker too had I got that first 30 feet figured out in time. But so
we do need. Well, I need to for sure too, but like we got to go to just like a bracket weekend.
And actually test?
And just do like testing.
Yeah.
Because like I screwed myself in Toronto because we went there. We made one pass. It was like super cold out. Like you can see your breath and everything. We make one pass at the top of the track, and then it like lost the tire. Like a car doesn't usually do that or whatever. But it lost the tire like 80 feet out. And then I come back to the trailer and I'm just like, we don't have enough time. It's freezing out, blah, blah. I'm like, it's not going to be able to handle that much boost. So I did a gear swap, like changed the gears or whatever. Yeah. So then we have like half the boost. Big change. Big change. Like, huge change. So we have like half the boost. So then we go up there and like it goes down. But at that point, I made too many changes because big boost change, and then I like killed the timing. Like just made it lazy to make sure that it would go down. So then race day comes, and then I'm like making these passes, and it's slow. So I'm looking at the Holly, and you can see traction control is like nipping at it or whatever. So then I'm like, that's all it could take. But the thing about Greg Schmidt has said this to me so many times, because he'll be like, Dr. Traction Control, I'm out of here. Yeah. Like he hates it, right? Yeah. So I'm looking at it and I'm like it's nipping at it, it's riding the line or whatever. I can't add it anymore because it's going to lose a tire or whatever. But the thing about traction control is the line that you put in there is as fast as it can go. So if you're riding the line, it doesn't mean that you're going to blow the tires off or whatever. It just means that it's like keeping it there.
Yeah, you're outrunning the pace that you set.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it and it's like spiking over it, but meanwhile the car actually wants to go faster. So I got lucky and I got a buy run, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm just like turning it up a bit.
Yeah, move the line.
Yeah, move the line and it like picks up like 6 numbers or whatever. So then I was like, fuck. So like that's like I got to get better for sure with like tuning in between rounds, because I'm usually pretty good. Like I'll show up somewhere and I'll like, if we get a test pass, that's deadly, because like I'll figure out a bunch from there. But if we don't get a test pass, I'm usually pretty good at be like, okay, I can make it go down. But then I got to get better at like how fast can you make it go in a short amount of time. Because if I have like a test day, I'll figure it out and I'll go fast. But
yeah, like kind of knowing what lever to pull in the moment to get the outcome you want. Like
I love just going to different tracks so that like nobody knows you, because
right.
there's no pressure at all. And yeah, I hate just showing up somewhere. It's different like our local track, because they already know kind of where you're at.
But there's still some expectation, like for
there is.
Like now you got pretty quick door carf around here, and everybody knows it. So if you pull up and all of a sudden you're just making 60-foot hits and clicking it off, people are.
They hate that.
Yeah.
Run it to the corner.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm trying to keep pistons in it. Like, let me put my fueling together. But yeah, like this whole Toronto thing. It just feels like there's like eyes on you. Like, this guy drove 16 hours. He's just here for grab money from us or whatever, right? And it's like, no, we have to drive this far because there's nothing else around, and you guys are putting on a cool race, and I kind of want to, like, it's in Canada, I'd like to come to that race or whatever. But
so you feel some pressure from that, or what do you feel?
I feel a bunch of pressure for some reason.
Also, you're kind of like represent, like you're going into their, although we're it's the same province, right? In Canada, we're kind of going into their territory.
They don't consider us like part of Ontario.
No, we're far enough that we're not
too far up north or whatever that we don't matter. So, but yeah, I just gotta do my thing and not think about trying to do too much. I guess I don't know. Because if I would have left that gear set in there,
probably would have been all right, right?
Like it wasn't -4 the next day or whatever. So like it would have took it. So.
Yeah, it's all learning though. Like I said, I've never gone to the track and not learned and like not made steps forward, even if the car didn't go quicker or faster. Which at least for mine for the season, I think it went quicker and faster pretty much every time out. But every time I go, even if it, like, when we just go and test your car and I didn't bring mine, I would still learn something about whether it's, like, making tune-up changes or, reading the road, anything. Could be anything, but I always feel like I'm taking something away from it, so never feels like a waste of time or like a step backward. So even, for this weekend where it didn't work out, we're talking about the I-29 when I didn't quite get it figured out there. Like, the week after, I had the notes for like 3 things right away that I would change next time out, or like first time this season, with the clutch, with the suspension, and then power management's going to depend on kind of what it's going to be, but yeah.
So this happened to me too. So it's happened twice, I guess. So I had my SB2 motor, NA, and I got to a point where I was like, I'm just going to start running nitrous. But then there's part of me in the back of my head that's like, you could have took this a little bit farther on NA before you made that step.
Yeah.
But then you make the step to nitrous, and then you're like, okay, it's faster. Would have been cooler to go a little bit faster with that, but I'm learning new stuff. So you're like, you're in the zone there. So when I went Pro Charger from nitrous, there was still that thought, I could have changed this. I could have maybe done a little bit more with that.
Squeeze the combo a bit more.
So that So I could have found like the absolute potential of that combo before I moved to Pro Charger.
Yeah, which is not like 5/10. It's like, you know, within a handful of numbers probably.
Yeah, it was pretty close probably. But do you feel that right now?
Absolutely. That's completely the reason that, we're discussing this. Like, I know, so as the car was, exactly like, okay, full disclosure, this is like a stock motor in my car basically. This is out of a pickup truck. GM built that motor for the most part. Valve train and stuff's a little tricky, but it's all like stock parts. And every single pass, I like wring that motor's neck.
Yep.
Like shift at 8100, like 400 shot of nitrous, like all the way down. It's just wringing its neck every pass. And
it's been a good motor.
What's that?
It's been a good motor.
It has been a very good motor. I'm not complaining at all about the motor. I'm just saying, like, I don't have a ton more room to keep putting jet sizes in it either. Right. Because I've noticed that start to come off too. Like it's over 1,300 pounds per hour. I think it was like I don't know, whatever that plate was doing on that. I think it was a 116 jet on that stinger plate. So it was moving some nitrous through it. And
now is that just a cam swap away from?
Well, this is the thing. So it kind of snowballs. Like I'm like, how if I want to push the nitrous combo further, the camshaft has to change. Well, I got stock lifters, stock rockers, everything like that. So if I go to a bigger camshaft, now I'm looking at solid roller, now I'm looking at valve train, got stock cylinder heads and everything. And like it kind of just snowballed, and then how much you want to invest into a nitrous engine architecture when you maybe have a similar ceiling. Like I could do all of that for this architecture, and I think so with the mile an hour I ran on those last runs in the 8th, this is like a an 890 car in the quarter, but it'll never be like an 840s car or like a bottom 8 car with this setup. Right. It's just not going to happen. Like the ceiling, like it's near to the ceiling. But if with a combo change, like I said, I can spend another season just like wringing this poor motor's neck and like, maybe turn it 8,500, maybe spray 450, and maybe maybe I crack the piston first time out. I have no idea, but I do know with like a combo change, it's going to push the ceiling like way higher, and it's going to open up for like a ton more learning too in terms of like tuning a new combo, now having actually like an excess of power to work with. Because like I said, every single pass, I basically have all the power in within like half a second. On most surfaces, it's within half a second. Like everything's in. Some surfaces I leave with everything. Like at No Prep Kings, I was leaving with like everything it had. But I don't think at that time I had 400 shot.
No Prep Kings was a good surface.
It was a really good surface. I think I had a 350 shot on the car, and I had the chip at $5,000. I left with absolutely everything it had, and it still stuck the tire and just drove out of there. I wish I had time slips that weekend because I'm pretty sure I ran some numbers.
Yeah, I got that VPS that'll spit numbers out or whatever. But
it's another time where it would have been useful for me to have data.
Well, the draggy's there.
Right.
It's just I didn't teach you how to do it because we were in
too much shit going on. You're on TV and
So the thing about No Prep Kings was we tested in Terrace Bay the week before. Mm-hmm. And the best I could go on small tire, I think, was a 525. And then we went to No Prep Kings with the exact same setup. Mm-hmm. And I went like bottom 5s. Mm-hmm. And then I just kept adding power till I was down to like a 478, I think it was.
Yeah, it just kept going quicker.
Yeah.
Like, so you didn't end up finding the limit.
Like we were at Terrace Bay, prepped, like old airport, whatever.
Yeah.
But like that surface was good at No Prep Kings.
It was a very good surface at No Prep Kings. Well, so guys ended up going like 390s, I think, that weekend in the big tire, like in the show. So
like I kind of want to go to another No Prep Kings event just to see like how different the surface would be scraped.
Oh, at another track, you mean, or?
Yeah. Like I guess Ohio. We're not too far from Ohio, so I know they go there. Mm-hmm.
But I think to make a good TV show, like you don't want to see aborted runs or guys blowing the tires off. Like it's not prep. But they're setting. You want to set the guys up for success, and that's what they do.
Well, some people want to see just carnage, but the show would
not the producers. For sure. Yeah.
Because guys can't afford to rebuild cars every weekend. No. So it
doesn't make for good viewership either when you got hours of downtime, like peeling cars off the track and cleaning shit up. So, but yeah, that surface was really killer. Like I couldn't bring enough power in my car, my chassis to like even to get that was everything it had. But like I said, I'm more interested now like to I could spend another season, get like 2 more tenths out of this nitrous combo, I think. Maybe 3. I feel like it's possible. But that's assuming, everything holds together, right?
Right.
You know, how many nitrous bottles that's going to be to get there. That was a thing, too. Like, 1 weekend of nitrous will buy me a turbo. 2 weekends of nitrous buys me a turbo and gates.
Right.
3 outings of nitrous, so like you're paying for half of a new combo.
And I feel like it went up in the States again.
It still went up. The price went up. So fuel's more expensive for this nitrous motor. That's the other thing. Although it's like a stock motor, in order to get the stock motor to live at like 1,000 horsepower like this, like on nitrous, not on turbo, like you have to treat it well. So like, you know, I have like really good fuel in it. We got water injection on it. We run, you know, like the plug, everything has been set up for it to be successful. And there's a lot that comes with that, like a lot of expense. Live a happy life, yeah. Yeah, we never, like, I haven't melted ground straps on that motor, never killed pistons, just kept going, which means I didn't push it hard enough. Some would say you're not pushing hard enough. I know, I'm not pushing hard enough, but, yeah.
But I feel like you also don't have to melt the piston or a ground strap to find out that you didn't push it hard enough.
No, I mean, well, you know, there's been times where we've, you know, I've got more aggressive with time. Actually, it's picked up pretty consistently, but there's been, you know, you get to the edge and detonation, see some stuff on the plug, and roll it back, and it's liked it. So kind of just tried to keep it there. That was the thing too. I didn't start, like I started with a 100 shot, and then, you know, 150, a 200, and I stepped up over time. It wasn't all one weekend either. Yeah. So, but I know that, you know, I'm near the ceiling, and I'm not interested in filling nitrous bottles all the time. And also, just even on a race weekend,
sucked.
In the lanes, like it's super cold for this outing, and then I'm sitting in the lanes, then there's an oil down, then I lose my bottle pressure because it's like, you know, single digit temperature outside, and, you know, I got it wrapped in a blanket, we got a heater. It's just a nightmare. And then you're worrying about that. Then I'm on the line, and the bottle pressure's here. My tune-up's different now.
You're bringing back all these memories.
Yeah, right? See? How you regret not pushing that nitrous one further?
No, you come back from a run, and it's just like, switch a bottle.
Yeah, switch a bottle, get another one in the water, like checking the pressure. The pressure's all the way over the top, and that was another thing that happened.
Roll that one under the trailer.
Roll it under in case it blows up. Then I can't purge it down. I purged the one time. I purged for like 15 seconds straight. I couldn't get pressure down. Fuck. So and then I just hit it, right, and just knocked the tire off. Like, so anyway, there's like, nitrous has its own frustrations, and I'm kind of interested in simplifying my like track day experience a little bit. Like I see, you know, now with you going through the nitrous now in the Pro Charge. Oh, it's between when you kind of just sit there, maybe you're on the laptop.
Yeah, it actually gives me time to look at stuff, but not that I do.
Plugs, cutting threads off, bottle in. Oh, fuck, whatever.
That's all Uncle Don though.
It's true.
Uncle Don's in there filling the fuel up. Yeah. He's pulling whatever plug I need out, and I'm on the laptop or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's good. Plus, even like,
if we have to go on our own, then like there is still time for me to do it.
Yeah,
or whatever.
There's no time.
There's definitely more time.
It's nice to have that. Nitrous. I was gonna say too, just even like managing engine temp and stuff like that. You know, like I'm like conscious of getting that cylinder head temp down between runs too. Like in a day where we got to make a lot of laps. Like I know I'm near the edge on the tune-up with this thing, like relatively.
Yep.
I never built it like a nitrous motor, so the quench is like super, super tight. The chambers, like I cut like 100 thou off the deck of those heads. Like they're like really cramped. Yep. So like I've noticed, like I'll see detonation on the porcelain if, you know, I basically hit the line at like normal operating temp for an engine. So I like to hit the line like as cold as possible. Yeah. Cold as possible. So stuff like that, where you just, you know, crank the thing up, roll in the lane, you'll be idling, you'll do whatever. It doesn't matter, you know, the methanol motor.
Yeah, the whole time really I'm like, well, I'm milking my oil the whole time.
Yeah,
but
well, true. But like I got a street car, I'm getting guys pushing me in the lane, so I don't have to keep cranking it up. So that's kind of annoying too. Well, we got the golf cart. You have a golf cart. But a street car shouldn't need a golf cart to make like, you know, bottom 9-second passes.
But there is times where Don's like, you want me to push you up? And I'm like, I'll drive and try and get some heat in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
fans are off. Everything's off. Just trying to like get it up to 100.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's inevitable, but we'll see how the next couple months plays out and see if we get something together. Because the thing that comes too, like I don't want to switch combos and have a carburetor on a turbo motor. That's absolutely not happening. So
no, carbs.
Yeah.
Blow through carbs suck.
Yeah. Hear about that in the next episode.
Blow through carbs suck because 1, you get them and they don't work, and they burn up your motor, and then 2, you send them out and you just never get it back. So, that part sucks.
Yeah, so I've heard.
Yeah.
So,
He says he's gonna box it up and send it back. This will be good for all these people. Just anybody who watches these can just like timeline it. I think it's been 2 years now.
Yeah, weird. So. Well, that's all right. I'll be having injectors in my next motor. So
if you do change motors, are you going to use the same bottom end, or you're starting fresh?
No, I think like that's the other thing. The stock bottom end thing is, I like the idea of it, especially for a lot of applications, like up to this like 1,000 horsepower level. Like, why not? But I don't really want to have, like, I'd rather have a solid piece now, like a solid bullet in the car, where I can just worry about, putting a tune-up in the car and racing a race. Like, I'd rather be competitive at these races now versus saying, I went out first round, but I got like a stock bottom end. Like, nobody really cares.
Right.
So, and I certainly don't care.
Would you keep that motor complete and then start building a second motor?
That's what I'm.
So that
I'm
the
doing
swap
right now.
would.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make it in time, you could still run this one and then.
This motor will stay together. It's
Nice.
a great like setup. Like I said, it's awesome in a street car, which is what I built it for, to be like a a fun street car, and I'll put it in another street car or something, and keep it like that. But yeah, the turbo motor will be more purpose built for that. Like actually having the foresight of what power adder is going to be on it, and fuel and stuff, and put it together properly. Like I said, this was like a motor I built as a student, right? I'm actually still a student, which is kind of the constraint on also building a new turbo motor. But yeah, this was like a student build. It's like, what's the, the best way to make like 650 horsepower on a budget, and that was how. So that's how we got here. And it's lasted way longer than I thought it would. Like you said, it's been very good, so I have no complaints.
That's good, though, because when you start breaking stuff, it gets expensive.
To
stay at the same level, which sucks.
Yeah, that's why another reason why I'm like another season on nitrous, just like it's on borrowed time. It doesn't need it. So see what happens. But maybe more about that on the next one.
Yeah.
We'll have another update.
So hopefully, we're probably cranking for time right now.
Yeah,
almost
we've
at an
cranked
hour.
it.
So yeah, we'll be back soon.
Yep. I think back on a
get back
frequency.
on some sort of schedule. Get Trevor back here.
Trev, we miss you. Come
miss
on.
you, Trev. Come on.
Can't be a date every night.
Come on.
We know how you operate, but take a night off.
Hopefully this will start dropping.
I got no comment on that.
It's just because the lens is wide angle, so I look chubbier. But
I heard black is slimming, isn't it?
These aren't black.
Okay. My bad, dude. All right.
So
Sweet.
Yeah, we'll let you get back to your
nice. I gotta go rob a bank, so I'm out of here. And I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
All right.